What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Willie Picks MMA, and today we are going to be breaking down UFC Miami, UFC 327. Super exciting card, a lot of pick'em fights, a lot of value that could be had on these props. So super excited to get into this. We're going to be breaking down every single fight, talking about where I think there could be some value on each of these fights in regards to the wagering. So, without further ado, let's get into the card. Oh, what? Sorry, guys. Technical difficulties. Bang. All right, cool. First up, we got Francisco Prado taking on Chuck Buffalo. Chuck Buffalo 11-5-0. Coming in as a slight favorite right now. He's not minus 240, but he is a favorite as we speak. Let's go to the other screen. Yeah, minus 170, not minus 240. So some money's come in on the Francisco Prado side. Bringing him to a plus 145 underdog right now. How I think this fight plays out. Chuck Buffalo, I think he's going to have the grappling advantage. He's much older here. I forget that people say that, I mean, he is a vet, Francisco Prado, but this guy's only 23 years old. And now he's training at ATT, which is something that I like. But he's a young fighter that hasn't really shown much in the UFC. Honestly, all of his performances, I haven't bet on him just because his fights to me are so boring. I hate to say it, but just to me, they're just really not entertaining. So I struggle to really engage on how well he does or how well he could do. If he loses here, I think he gets cut, sent back to the regional scene. But I did hear, or I saw on X or Twitter that he just signed a commenting deal with the ESPN Espanol. So maybe they re-sign him even if he does lose. But Chuck Buffalo, I think he's gonna have a grappling advantage here. I think he does have some sneaky power in the left hook. Francisco Prado's finishes, this guy's got a ton of finishes on the regional scene. He did knock out that Zaitar brother. But yeah, no, nothing too crazy for Prado. How I think this fight plays out, I think Chuck Buffalo is going to have to use his grappling here, and I think he will. I think he'll mix it in, look for some subs. If it's on the feet, he could be more prone to getting knocked out. He did get brutally brutally knocked out by Mike Malott. So, it's not out of the realm of possibility that Francisco Prado does land something. I doubt it, but I think Chuck Buffalo looks to grapple here, looks for sub. Does he get it? I don't think so. I think this fight goes to a decision. So for my official prediction, give me Chuck Buffalo by decision. Not too confident in that one. I struggle to find value here just because we could see some drastic improvements from Francisco Prado just because he's so young and he's training at a good gym. But as far as value goes, maybe some on the underdog if he's catching him early. Those round 1 knockout props, round 2 knockout props, we cashed on 2 of them 2 weeks ago, or maybe was it last week? Whatever the Joe Pyfer versus Izzy fight was. We cashed on the Joe Pyfer round 2 knockout, just because in my head, if Joe Pyfer was going to win, that's how he was going to do it. I also lost a bet, full transparency, I lost a bet on Izzy, but we cashed that plus, I think it was plus 1,200 round 2 knockout prop, just because, a lot of times, knockouts are a highly probable outcome in MMA, and a lot of the times, if these guys are going to win, it's going to be by round 1 knockout. Same thing with Lance Gibson Jr. Same thing, we bet on Chase Hooper. We had him in a parlay. The parlay lost anyways, on both ends because of Ignacio Bahamondes, but we cashed on the round 1 knockout for Lance Gibson Jr. So if you're looking for value, there's always value. If these guys, are throwing hands on the round 1 knockout prop, especially since it's a guy that is, in Francisco Prado, or in Charles Radke that has been knocked out by like Mike Milan. I mean, this guy's been finished before, so it's it's not completely out of the realm of possibility. But official pick, give me Chuck Buffalo. Value maybe a round one finish. Maybe you look at Chuck Buffalo by decision. But nothing crazy there. Moving on. Just give me a second. Cool. Yeah, all right. We got the live chat going. Excellent. Very good. All right, next. Moving on. We've got Kelvin Gastelum versus Vicente Luque. Super excited for this one, actually. Just because initially going into the fight, pre-tape study, I saw Luque as an underdog, and I was like, oh, shoot, like, there could be some value here. Like, Kelvin doesn't care. This guy's coming in 6 pounds heavy and a weight class where, like, he's fighting up a weight class at middleweight, right? So, was super excited initially about this one to potentially be laying a dog bet on Vicente Luque, but I can tell you now that, unfortunately, that's not going to be happening. Kelvin Gastelum, 20-10-0, 191 pounds, like I said, and 5'9" with a 71.5-inch reach. Vicente Luque, 23-12-1, 5'11" with a 76-inch reach. Kelvin Gastelum, it doesn't look like he cares. But, all right, from something that did stand out to me from my Instagram research, it does look like he's a little bit more locked in. He's training at the UFC PI. He does look a little bit more excited to be there. But I also discovered, too, that this guy owns a fight promotion. So, how much time is he actually spending in the cage, whether or not he's invested or not. Luque, on the other hand, does seem like he's in the cage. Obviously, this is a guy towards the end of his career. He hasn't looked good, even in the Themba fight. Like, he landed two. What does that show us? The Themba fight, what did it show us, right? He landed two punches. One of them dropped Themba, and then he very quickly locked up a Darce, right? So it doesn't really tell me much. And, the Joaquin Buckley fight, he pulls guard and gives up. The Joel Alvarez fight, he pulls guard and gives up. Not good looks. You know what I'm saying? But I can say the same almost about Kelvin Gastelum. Like, I feel like he just kind of stops trying. And going back, a lot of people give Kelvin credit for the Joe Pyfer fight. Like, he really did not do anything in that fight. Even in round 3, like, he landed a few good combinations. I don't give him any solace in that, performance, even though he technically won round 3 on the scorecards, right? He was just not taking damage the whole fight. He was just trying to not get punched in the face by Joe Pyfer's right hand, which, I don't blame him, but I don't give him too much credit for that performance. The Dustin Stoltzfus fight, like, there's times where it looked like he could have almost finished Dustin, and he let him off the hook. He let him off the hook. He let him go. And then, Dustin's coming back and getting good positions. He took his back and started landing some ground and pound. I think it was at the end of round 2 in that fight. And, whether or not those shots were hard, it's not a good look to be, like, giving up that position and just accepting getting punched on the side of the head for as long as Kelvin did towards the end of the round. Like, he knew he was getting bailed out, but it could have been, a relatively close round, especially if he's allowing that position to take place for 10 seconds. It's a close round. And in round 3, like, there's skeptical moments, and I know, like, initially, I think I had a bet on Dustin that night. And going back and watching that, I knew Kelvin had won pretty convincingly, but, like, there's still questionable moments against Dustin Stoltzfus, who, I will argue is a good underdog. I've bet on him in a few fights as an underdog just because he's cashed as an underdog before. But, not good looks. This guy's kind of, like, you could tell he doesn't, he's cheating on the diet. Like, he's not as invested as he once was. As a 170-pounder, even though he, could have never really been too invested, honestly, just because of the way he goes out there and looks. But for my official prediction, a lot of people are on Kelvin here to go out there and knock out Luque. I mean, I think he could be effective, right? He's going to have a massive speed advantage. How I think the fight plays out, I think that Kevin is going to have a speed advantage. He's going to look to use it. He could wobble Vicente, but if that happens, after the first round, I don't think he goes out there and tries to finish him. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he has that sense of urgency. And I don't think he's going to be putting out Vicente Luque cold on the mat. Vicente Luque's taking beatings out there. He's not getting, completely flatline knocked out cold. Or if he is, he's taking a beating before that happens, So I don't think Kelvin's going to be able to string enough together to find a TKO. I think he's going to be bouncing around on the feet. I think he's going to be piecing up Luque. I think he's going to be able to land more significant strikes. And if Luque tries to grapple, I don't think he's going to be able to have too much success. If he does, maybe he wins. Because that kind of, for me, would be Luque's path to victory, would be the grappling. But, yeah, for my official pick, give me Kelvin by decision. It's currently sitting at plus 205. There could be some meat on the bone there just because I know a lot of people, and the market has, favored slightly the Kelvin Gastelum knockout prop as opposed to the decision. I think the decision is the more likely outcome, just kind of fading Kelvin's sense of urgency and desire to be in the cage. But moving on. Other than that, I don't really think there's too much value unless maybe Luque's getting the grappling going, having a lot of success with the grappling, and you can live bet him. But besides that, nothing crazy. Next, Markel Medeiros taking on Chris Taco Padilla. Markel Medeiros 11-1-0 on a 5-fight win streak, standing 5'10" with a 69.5-inch reach. Chris Taco Padilla also on a 5-fight win streak, 155 pounds, 5'9", with a 74-inch reach. Chris Padilla is a slight favorite right now, sitting at, I want to say, let me look over here, Chris Padilla. Yeah, slight favorite. Some money's coming in on Markel. Chris Padilla earlier was like a minus 180 favorite. I do like him to win. I like him to win by decision here. I think he's going to be slightly awkward enough to win some exchanges on the feet. I do give the striking edge slightly to Markel Medeiros, but Chris can mix in the grappling. He's the kind of guy that could use his grappling to make his striking more effective, or just could completely outright have success with the grappling here. Markel has struggled in UFC matchups with grappling. I think he was taken out a bunch of times in a fight. Let me pull that up. Because I don't remember who it was, but I remember he was taken down a bazillion times after watching the film. No, it wasn't a bazillion times. But, Mark the Shark was able to take him down twice, even though he lost. And then go to a split decision. Austin Hubbard's, that fight, I think I bet on Austin Hubbard against Markel Medeiros there, just because Austin Hubbard's a guy that makes all these fights close. So, there could always be fights, or always value on Austin Hubbard as an underdog. But, I think Chris could be successful here with the grappling. And I think he's got some sneaky power. I do think he absorbs a little bit of shots, but I think the grappling pressure could disrupt Markel Medeiros, who is undefeated in the UFC. Both guys are undefeated in the UFC. This is great matchmaking, I honestly think. Even though I know it's a short notice bout, and I think Chris is taking this on short notice, which I don't like for him. But Markel Medeiros was supposed to fight somebody else that was half decent. So he was in a camp. I'm not entirely sure who it was that he was supposed to be taking on, but let me actually look at that, because we're going to look together. Yeah, Nazim Sadikov, a guy with, not, I don't want to say similar striking, but striking that could be comparable. I remember, making note of that when looking at this. That was a guy that, I don't want to say, because Chris doesn't have, question mark kicks and, insane strikes like that, but he's got elbows, he's got, sneaky strikes in the clinch. So, not somebody, it's not like Markel Medeiros was preparing for somebody like Khabib, and now he's getting Chris Padilla. It was another striker that could be throwing similar shots. So I kind of like that for Markel Medeiros here. I think this fight could be close. I think this fight could. This is a fight that kind of goes. Like if Chris isn't too successful with the grappling, I could see it going to split decision. But for my official prediction, give me Chris Taco Padilla by decision. Not too confident in that. As far as value goes on this card, Chris by decision. You know, that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. You know, maybe fight goes the distance, or fights goes to split decision. Moving on. Let's hit the chat real quick. Okay. No. I don't want to learn more. Chat. Live chat. All right, let's see. Dude, all right. We got 2 baddies from Jewel. 2 baddies from Jewel. Banger. Feeling a chalky Padilla play. Back. Bang Padilla play. Back. Oh, he's back. Oh, he said he... Okay. Back. Oh, okay. Yeah, he said he got kicked out from the chat. Wonder why. Maybe don't mention that in the YouTube chat. I don't know if you can delete that, but maybe 2 baddies from Jewel. Maybe don't mention anything crazy. I don't know why you would have gotten kicked, though. Feeling a chalky Padilla play shouldn't have got you banned. So, I don't know. 2 baddies from Jewel. Best of luck in not getting banned. I'm sorry about that. But, yeah. Padilla by decision. I like Padilla by decision more than I like the money line. But, moving on. Next up, we got Tati Suarez versus Lupe Godinez. Another fight that I've been playing all these women's fights to go the distance and go to split decision. It's somewhat been working out for me. But like, you know, so like the Haley Cowan fight kind of bamboozled me. That fight I thought was going the distance. Yeah, I like all these women's, whatever. Yeah, Tati versus Lupe. Tati 5'9", 66-inch reach. With Lupe Godinez coming in at 5'2" with a 61-inch reach. Both these girls UFC vets. If this was pre-Zhang Weili fight, I like Tati, but it's not. And Lupe is another person that has historically dropped the ball a bunch. So this is, sloppy split decision written all over it. I think if Tati doesn't get her grappling going, then Lupe could maybe box her up, but maybe Lupe shoots a takedown and gets reversed. Totally something that could happen with that fight IQ. Not a fan of either. Well, no, I actually was a fan of Tatiana. I still am a fan of Tatiana. She's good, good, solid fighter. Not a fan of the striking. Not a fan of her husband striking. Poor Patchy Mix. But yeah, official prediction, give me Tati by decision, but it's going to be sloppy. Give me split decision. Tati could be some value on the split decision. They probably got it lined at plus 225. I haven't even looked at it, but that's what it's been the last couple women's MMA fights that are closely lined. So let's look. I bet it's going to be plus 325. I guarantee it. Inside the distance. Nope, plus 350. I was wrong. Close but wrong. But yeah, Tati by split decision is the prediction. Could be value on that because I actually do think it happens. I think that is the by far most likely outcome. So give me Tatiana Suarez by decision. Moving on. Split decision. Cheeky split. Not unanimous. Next, Mateusz Gamrot versus Esteban Ribovics. Mateusz Gamrot, 35 years old, 5'10", with a 70.5-inch reach. Esteban Ribovics, 29 years old, 5'10", with a 69-inch reach. I do forget he's got a little reach. Mateusz Gamrot is the slight favorite right now. I think he's minus 180 something, and the comeback on Esteban Ribovics is plus 165. I like Gamrot for the official pick, but I think this fight plays out two ways. Either Gamrot shows levels, that's the angle that I'm leaning towards, Gamrot showing levels, because in the Camuela Kirk fight, Esteban Ribovic spent an entire round on his back, which is absolutely not out of the realm of possibilities in this Gamrot situation. I get Gamrot isn't the best grappler. He is a better wrestler. So the back take position is a little bit less likely. It's more like he's going to be holding up against the cage, more of like in a knees down neutral position. Not neutral, but almost finishing a takedown position. Esteban Ribovic's bouncing back up, and Gamrot just getting a bunch of takedowns and landing a bunch of control ultimately. But that amount of control time, and he was taken down against Loik Razbonov like 11 times, and that's kind of why I think Gamrot's going to do the same thing that Loik did to him. But the other angle is that Esteban Ribovic gets up, shows an aging Gamrot, shows he's the younger, more hungry fighter here, and gets up after those takedowns are landed. That's equally as likely of an outcome. Not equally. I'd say it's like 60-40. But it's an outcome. That could happen. And at plus 163, if we're looking at implied probability, if I'm saying it's 60-40, right? And it's, the money line on Ribovic is plus 163. They're saying it's 38%. They're saying I have a 2% edge. So maybe it's a bet I should be making, but I really do think Gamrot's going to be showing levels here, kind of like he did against Ludovic Klein. Even though he's aging, the Charles Oliveira loss ages really well. He completely dominated Max Holloway and really showed that he's like an insane wrestler. He's got insane strength. Maybe he was just stronger than Gamrot. You know what I'm saying? But the fact that Ribovic has been taken down so many times against Loik, and I get that was years ago, is kind of why I'm picking Gamrot here in this situation. I think he could be successful with the single leg. That's the way to go, I think, in MMA wrestling, is the single leg. I think it's very effective if you have a good one. And Gamrot's a guy that has a good single leg. He's also a guy that's training at a good gym. This is another South Florida classic, Killcliff versus ATT. It's funny, my house is sitting like in between ATT and Killcliff. It's hilarious. Like it's very funny because at the grocery store I used to manage, I saw a lot of Killcliff guys there, like Marc-Andre Barrialt. I've seen I've seen Mateus Gamrot there as well at the Publix, even though he's an ATT guy. So classic South Florida matchup. Super exciting. Both these guys are local. Still on the fence on whether or not I go to the fights, go to the card. Because I'd probably want either Brightline or I'd want to get a hotel. I don't know. Whatever. We'll see. But for my official pick, give me Gamrot by decision. It's the market has moved it a little bit up to plus 105. On BetOnline earlier in the week, it was plus 100. So for my official prediction, give me Gamrot by decision. That's how I think it's playing out. I think he's just going to show levels, and I think he is going to be successful with the grappling. And I don't think Esteban Ribovic necessarily has the knockout power in his hands. He might have it in his kicks. We know he knocked out Terrence McKinney. It was a beautiful knockout with the kick he threw up at the end of his combination. But he doesn't necessarily have the power in his hands per se to knock somebody out cold. Even though Gamrot has been kind of chinny. We've seen him chinned in a lot of his fights recently, actually. That I remember watching film on. So, give me Gamrot by decision, but I expect it to be close. And, I could be betting on Ribovic. I could be betting the Gamrot decision and then betting the Ribovic money line. So it could go either way. But, Gamrot by decision. Moving on. Let's hit the chat. Real quick before we move on to the featured prelim, Randy Brown versus Kevin Holland. Let's hit the chat. All right, we got James 5HR HR5XT. Give me Jiri Jiri, we'll talk about Jiri. I think I got Carlos there, but it's another unpredictable dartboard fight that we'll talk. There's plenty of those on this card that we're going to talk about later in the card. Andrew Pistoia, 2898. Love the picks. Thank you, Andrew. Shout out, Andrew. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you, buddy. Moving on. Kevin Holland versus Randy Brown. Let me check something real quick. Checking that. Sorry, guys. Production quality's kind of mid. Don't bother me. Dang, we gotta get this out of here too. These text notification pings. My bad, chat. All right, let's go. Shout out Andrew for being here. Shout out James for being here. Shout out two baddies from Jewel for being here. That's awesome. This is great. All right, Randy Brown versus Kevin Holland. And I said this in the earlier video that I made and in my breakdown that you guys can have access to in the Telegram for free, which I'll attach in the bio. I'll attach the link to that in the bio. But I said that these guys are very similar. Not in the sense that they are both tall black dudes, but more in the sense of their fight styles and their overall trajectory in the UFC. Both these guys at this point are journeymen. Randy Brown, I wouldn't say is a paycheck fighter, just because he was put up against that step up of competition. But this guy always loses the steps up in competition. But, Kevin Holland, not a journeyman, but a guy that's going in there. Well, they're both kind of really journeymen, but a guy that's going in there for the paycheck. He puts on entertaining performances 2 out of every 3 times. So, the UFC pays him. Wow, 59% of the public's on Brown. I didn't even know that. That's crazy, actually. 59-41. That's crazy. I thought it would be more like 50-50. That's probably why the line is shifted, too. But, yeah, Kevin Holland, 6'3", 81.5-inch reach. Randy Brown, also 6'3", 20-7. Kevin Holland, 28-15. Sorry, I'm all over the place with this. With a, 78-inch reach for Randy Brown. Yeah, so I do think that there could be some value here. Because Randy Brown is a guy that has lost 4 times in round 2. Kevin Holland's a guy that has 5 finishes in round 2 and a bunch more in round 3. Kevin Holland is coming off of 2 losses, right? So this is a situation where I think Kevin Holland knows he needs to give the UFC a little something, in order to, prove that he's worth, probably the 6 figures that he's getting paid to go in there for. So I think he could be live for a finish, and I think both guys honestly could be live for a finish, especially because we saw that Kevin Holland's chin could be deteriorating in that Daniel Rodriguez fight. These guys are very similar. And this, I think that Randy Brown might have the cleaner striking. He's got a really good right cross, and he pumps the double jab really well. I really like his double jab. I really like Randy Brown's striking. I think Kevin Holland's a little bit more well-rounded. I think his offensive and defensive wrestling might be a little bit better. I think these guys are pretty even in regards to grappling. I think Kevin's front choke series might be a little bit better than Randy Brown's. So I think he could be a little bit more alive for the submission. But, yeah, striking-wise, Kevin might be a little bit faster. He's going to be the younger fighter by 2 years. I feel like this fight plays out on the feet a lot of the times. I feel like if there's grappling, it's going to be on the Kevin Holland side. And the value to me comes in the round 2 and round 3 props, finish props for Kevin Holland, right? Because round 2 sitting at plus 750, round 3 sitting at plus 1200. Like I said, Randy Brown's been finished 4 times in his career in round 2 alone. And Kevin Holland's a guy with 5 round 2 finishes. And a guy that, could be a little bit patient getting his reads in there. Both these. Kevin Holland's a little bit more unpredictable. He doesn't care as much, I feel like, as Randy Brown, but I feel like he's better overall. So, Kevin Holland moneyline as an underdog at an underdog price tag was far more appealing to me. But really, I think the value's on those round 2, round 3 props. That is what I'm going to be playing. I gave that play out to everybody in my Telegram and on Instagram. So all those links are going to be in the bio if you're interested in tailing or following, rather. Let me know. Or go check out the links in the bio. But, yeah. Official pick, Kevin Holland, round 2. Knockout or submission. Moving on. We're moving on to the main card with Patricio Pitbull and Aaron Pico. Patricio Pitbull, 37-8-0, 5'6". Jeez, he's 5'6". With the 67-inch reach. Aaron Pico, 13-5-0, 5'8" with a 70-inch reach. Both these, this is a Bellator championship. I remember back in the day, these guys, before Bellator dissolved, this could have been a theoretical Bellator championship bout. And that's, really what I'm calling it here is it's a Bellator championship on the bottom of the main card. The UFC prelim openers, the Bellator main card championship. They can't let it go. That's funny. That's really funny. But, yeah. How this fight plays out. Aaron Pico is really good. I love Aaron Pico. And everything except his chin. This guy's been knocked out. I think it's been 5 times. I think this guy has 5 knockout losses. I've seen a few of them on film, but I think literally this guy has 5 knockout losses. We're going to find out together. 4. He's got a submission loss. Who did he lose to submission? No, he wasn't an amateur. Oh, he lost by guillotine in his first ever fight. No, I didn't watch that fight, unfortunately. Jackson Wink guy. I knew that. Dude. Yeah, love Pico, except for his chin. This guy's got great wrestling. This guy's got great ground and pound, which is a rare skill to have in MMA nowadays, is ground and pound. Really great overall all-around fighter. Great pressure, great forward pressure. Mixes in the wrestling, which opens up the striking. But like I said, this guy's getting clipped. He's getting shut out, knocked out cold. Not the best look. There's nothing you can do about that if you're getting knocked out cold like that. Patricio Pitbull, 38. That's kind of what worries me here, is that he's 38 years old against a guy that's typically so aggressive. After his knockout loss, or after 2 of his knockout losses, in the 2 fights after that I watched, he was slightly more conservative with his output and aggression. But that doesn't deter me from thinking that he could get a finish here, even if he did wrestle, right? I think he's going to be a lot more physical than him. Patricio's a guy that cut to 135 to fight Sergio Pettis, where he looked terrible. And Pico's a guy that I think could fight at 155 if he bulked up, just a little bit more. I mean, this guy's got a great physique, but he's absolutely a guy that could fight at 155. So, I think the physicality is going to be a real problem here. If Patricio's not landing a powerful strike early in round 1, I think that the chances of him winning slowly diminish as the fight goes on. I think that Pico's just going to be winning this fight entirely, honestly, until he's not. Pico's live for a knockout. I know I saw in his press conference or his interview, one of his official interviews with the UFC, that he kind of he's glad he got knocked out by the spinning elbow, and it made him reevaluate his fight style. So, based on his previous fights, that could insinuate that he could fight a little bit more timid here and primarily look to use the grappling, which I think he dominates, Pitbull. I think Pitbull maybe a slightly better grappling, but the physicality and wrestling advantage that Pico's going to have, I think, is going to be too much and make any grappling that Pitbull has ineffective. I don't like that he's 38. The cardio Dwayne's when you're 38, especially at featherweight, especially when you're cutting to 135 to fight Sergio Pettis. Those weight cuts take a toll on your cardio. It's just something that happens, especially when you age. So for my official pick, give me Aaron Pico by ground and pound TKO in round 2 or 3. And I think he could be a parlay piece, right? Aaron Pico's going to be winning every moment of this fight until he doesn't, just like the LeBron Murphy fight. If not more so, because I think the finishing upside here could be even higher against Pitbull than it was against LeBron Murphy. So for my official pick, give me Pico. Any value? Maybe I did like the under until I heard Pico's statement about him maybe using the grappling. So maybe Pico late finish, maybe Pico decision. But Pico is a parlay piece. Is good. Like I said, he's going to look great. He's going to look flawless until Pitbull's landing a nasty strike. So for my official pick, give me Pico. Value maybe on a finish or a decision, depending on how you cap the fight and what you guys think. Quick promo cut. As always, as you guys know, all of my bets for all these fights are in my winnable, right? Every single week I'm posting my bets and my results. Right now we're down 19 units. We are in a 2-week winning streak though. And I feel like we've gotten a lot of the abnormalities of 2026 out of the way. Bad first quarter, we're going to have a good summer. We're going to have a great second, great third quarter. Roll it into the fourth quarter, roll it into holiday season, roll it into gift buying season. We're going to be able to buy people some gifts this year. I'm feeling hot. I'm feeling excited, that this fight is in my backyard. I still might go to the fight to see the fights, to see my bets cash live in person. But I'm super excited. And if you guys want all the bets, feeling super hot. So, we'll let that, sit. We're coming off a nasty parlay cash, too. Last week we cashed Ethan Ewing, round 3 KO. Alessandro Costa, round 2 KO. Yakyaev, round 1 finish. Right? No, not KO. Round 3 finish, round 2 finish, round 1 finish, right? So that was like 100 to 1. We cashed that. 0.125 units, we turned into 12.5 units. It was nasty. It was filthy. Up 1.37 units. Super excited. Super excited for this, for these bets. So like I said, all of these links are going to be in the bio. I didn't expect this many live viewers. We have 5 live viewers. This is crazy. This is the most we've ever had. We're gonna get to the comment section in just a second, but I'm gonna add all the the link to the winnable and everything in the bio. So we're gonna be cashing bets this weekend. It's a free 7. No, it's actually a free. Yeah, it's a free 7 days. So capitalize. Get the bets. Get my early bets for next week too. And then if you like it, if we cash this week, use that money to just pay for the subscription. It's like $20 a month. You know what I'm saying? Use the money that you win this week. Cashing at UFC 327 in Miami to just roll that over into the subscription. It's going to be beneficial long term. We were up over 100 units last year. We cash these nasty parlays every once in a while. If we cash 2 or 3 of those parlays in a year, we are in profit, right? So super exciting. Let's cash it. Now we're going to hit the chat. We got Antonio Velasquez. Who wins, Pitbull or Pico? I got Pico, dude. I got Pico. I like Pico a lot. Like I said, I think he's going to be winning every single minute of this fight until he gets, or I don't want to say until because I don't think it's going to happen, but he's going to be winning every single minute of this fight until he gets knocked out, if that happens. Between Reyes and Walker, I wanted to bet Reyes. Dude! All right, we're going to talk about that, I think. Dude, yeah. No, not next. We got Cub Swanson versus Nate Landwehr next. But for my pick on that, I got Dominic Reyes. So we'll talk about that more, and I really liked him. I should have, and I didn't. I should have bet him earlier in the week, but I didn't. It was really, really unfortunate. But I do like Reyes, and I'll tell you guys why in a second, because I do have a bit of breakdown for that. But next, we've got Cub Swanson taking on Nate the Train Landwehr. Cub Swanson, 30, 14, and 0, 146 pounds, 5'8", with a 70-inch reach. Nate the Train, 18, 7, and 0, 146 pounds, 5'9", with a 72-inch reach. We got 77% of the people on Typology taking Swanson. Cheese. That's again why that line has come down. All right, so Cub Swanson currently the slight underdog, if you want to call it that, at minus 104. They got Nate Landwehr, the favorite, at minus 116. I like Cub more earlier when he was an underdog. I saw Cub live in Tampa to knock out Bill Algeo. It was a great fight. And it was nice to see Cub win. I had a bet on Cub too. I think it was like plus 130, plus 140 in that fight. But breaking this fight down. Cub's going to be 42, Nate's going to be 37. Both these guys are old. Battle of the Unks, close fight. This is, to me, the dartboard fight that I mentioned earlier in the stream, right? Pick a number with a plus in front of it. Pick a number with a pick your favorite prop. You know, really and truly, pick your favorite prop here and throw a dart, right? Because I think any of these props are live. You know, Cub Swanson, round 2, sub, live. Nate Landwehr, round 3, knockout, live. You know, Nate Landwehr, round 1, sub, live. Any one of these plays that you can pick is honestly live here, right? You know, don't get out the club and sub from Cub. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, this is an extremely unpredictable fight. That being said, I lean Nate. You know, that being said, I do lean Nate. I'll tell you why. Cub's 42. Cub's an awkward striker. You know what I'm saying? I don't think Bill Algeo is that good. I think Nate the Train has better wins. No, God, don't. No, he does not have better wins. He absolutely has not even close to better wins. My apologies. He's performed better slightly recently than Cub Swanson has. And that's kind of why I give him the edge, especially because he's a little bit younger, especially just because Cub is like kind of a coach now. You know, but that could play in his advantage. Maybe he comes in with a really good game plan. I think this fight is just extremely unpredictable. My official pick is Nate Landwehr. As far as how this fight plays out, I don't know. It's going to start on the feet. You know, whether or not it stays there, I don't know. You know, Nate would be the one to mix in the wrestling. If he does, you know, he could take down Cub. Maybe he gets the back. Maybe he looks for a sub. Or either guy could drop either guy, and either guy could take the back of either guy, or either guy could just knock the other guy out cold. You know, there's so many, like I said, just, you know, pick a number with a plus in front of it, throw a dart, you know, whatever you want. Nate, money line maybe. I mean, because I picked him to win. You know, if this fight gets any closer to even odds, you know, or if there's a plus in front of Nate's number, maybe I pick Nate. You know, but value could be anywhere here. I honestly couldn't tell you, just because these guys are so old. I've watched so many of each of these guys' fights that, like, truly, I don't want to say I'm confused, but I couldn't tell you what's going to happen here. I don't even want to give out a play. I don't even know if I'm going to bet on it. I'm liking a finish because both guys are old, you know. And it's Cubs retirement. There's just so much stuff. Cubs retirement fight. You know, Nate the Train is like, I don't want to say he's retarded, but geez. I don't know. Nate's my pick. Not confident. Like I said, literally, or you could do like the, you know, put all the props on like one of those name wheels, and then you could do it that way, and maybe your bet cashes. But honestly, like truly, I don't know. I don't know with this one. All right, let's hit the chat. What do we got? Antonio, my guy. All right, another one. I have a bet on Jiri Olberg not going to 25 minutes. All right, so we'll talk about that real quick. Jiri, before we get into Dominic Reyes, because I know you want to hear about that too. Okay, so Jiri in rounds 1 and 2 is extremely vulnerable, right? It depends. That fight not going the distance depends on if Carlos Olberg wants to try to knock him out in rounds 1 or 2. If he does, then I'm pretty confident that it doesn't go to the distance, because I think Carlos Ulberg is live for a round 1 or 2 finish, and Jiri's live for a round 3, 4, or 5 finish, right? But if Carlos Ulberg looks to play it safe, and looks to be safe and strike from the outside, which I think he could, do, and I think that it could be a good game plan for him, then I think Carlos Ulberg could stretch this to a decision, and frustrate Jiri, potentially. That being said, whether or not I think it goes under, yeah, I think it goes under. Just because Jiri's just going to force a pace, and it's going to be all on Jiri, and it's going to be all on how Carlos reacts to Jiri, right? Is whether or not I think that goes the distance. But yeah, so I don't think it does, but I don't know. I know Lucrative gave that out as the hammer of the week. I don't know about that one. I don't know about laying minus 325 on it. Maybe it's a parlay piece. And then maybe hedge with like a Ulberg decision, because if it does go decision, I think it's Ulberg. Next, Johnny Walker taking on Dominic Reyes. Dominic Reyes, 15-5-0, 6'4" with a 77-inch reach. Johnny Walker, 22-9-0 with a standing 6'6" with a 82-inch reach. You know what's funny? I don't think he's going to use that 82-inch reach, to be honest with you. I don't think it's going to be effective here, because there's an important thing that I want to mention here, right? And it's that, go back and watch the film. Johnny Walker has not won a UFC fight by knockout in a normal way. So, what do I mean by that? Elbow against Khalil, which I will say is probably the most normal knockout that he's had. Flying knee he has mixed in there. He's got a spinning back fist mixed in there. He's got 2 instances of head pounds to the side when guys are shooting single legs on him. One of them was Paul Craig, where he's just pounding the side of his opponent's head while they're shooting a takedown. And I believe that's the full extent of all of Johnny Walker's knockouts in the UFC. This guy doesn't have a normal knockouts. Oh no, leg kicks by Zhang Mingyang. I forgot that. He knocked out. Well, technically, he leg kicked him to the ground and then finished him on top. But pause. But he knocked his legs, to smithereens, and he dropped Zhang via leg kick. So that's how I'm counting that, as a leg kick TKO. So how does Johnny Walker finish this fight? Is it by spinning back fist? Is it by spinning back elbow? Is it by flying knee? If you're betting on Johnny Walker, to me, you're betting on one of those outcomes, because I don't think that if this fight goes to decision, I don't think Johnny Walker wins a decision against Dominic Reyes. I think that each guy has equal finishing potential, right? At a 50-50 margin, right? In the sense of their chin, right? So each guy's chin is fated at the same level, right? So that's such a weird way of putting it, but I'd rate the level of tenacity of each guy's chin at the same amount, right? So if we're talking about knockout shots, right? Dominic Reyes, southpaw, he's got the straight left. You know what I'm saying? He's got power in that. He's got jab. He's got the jab to set it up, right? Johnny Walker's main points of offense, this guy's landing like higher percentages of leg kicks in some of these fights than shots to the head, right? So his main offensive weapons are the leg kick, which he throws hard, and the teep kick, right? Other than those, I don't want to say fluke because he does it consistently, but other than those special, as in, flying knee, spinning back elbow, spinning, back fist. I know he didn't ever land a spinning back elbow, but, the flying knee, the spinning back fist, the elbow, the Muay Thai elbows against Khalil Roundtree, the side of the head pounding, the sheer power he gets. I will say he's extremely strong. I think Johnny Walker's going to have the physical strength advantage here. But how is he knocking Dominic Reyes out? Because Dominic Reyes is not getting dropped and finished by these weird fluke. I don't want to say fluke, but for other fighters, they're like fluke knockouts. Like Reyes isn't getting finished by those types of knockouts. He's getting finished by the conventional stuff where he's just like his chin fails him. And he's leaving his head in a spot that he shouldn't. Not that that couldn't happen with a spinning back fist or a knee, but it's far less likely. So to me, if you're betting on a Johnny Walker money line, you're betting on a flying knee, a spinning back fist, I don't think Dominic's going to wrestle, so I don't think there's a chance where he's going to get his head pounded, if he's shooting a single leg. So to me, you're betting on a spinning back fist or a flying knee or a Muay Thai clinch elbow. It's close to a pick and fight. Like, those are very low percentage outcomes. Maybe if you're running that fight, 50 times, you get one of each, or maybe two of one, but those are low percentage outcomes. And if this fight's a pick'em, like it was earlier in the week, I love the money line. I still think there could even be value, on the money line with the Dominic Reyes money line at minus 142, right? Like, I mean, if he's getting knocked, like, to me, he's not winning a decision. Walker's not going to be winning a decision, right? Reyes has got the far better footwork to me, the better technical striking. I think he keeps his range better. Both guys make mistakes, but I think Walker makes more mistakes more frequently. He's more aggressive. He's more prone to be getting caught with stuff than Reyes is. Even though, like I said, these guys have a 50-50%, 50-50 on the chin. I think truly that the value earlier was on Reyes. I know Walker was always kind of an underdog, and now he's even more of an underdog, but dude, like, to me, like, Reyes is the side here. I like Reyes I like the over 1.5. I think this guy's could be pensive early. And I like Reyes here. I like Reyes here by late round 2 finish is my official prediction. Value maybe on that over round and a half. Maybe by a late finish by Reyes. Just because I think he's just going to be so much more technical and so much more well-rounded. I think I think this fight takes place on the feet, but Dominic Reyes I think is better offensive and defensive wrestling. Like I said, physical strength I give to Johnny Walker. But the grappling, maybe Johnny Walker, but I don't think he gets there. Like, I don't think there's going to be any grappling. So, moving on. Main card. All right, wait, let's hit the chats. First, we get Antonio Vasquez. I think Jiri can take Olberg's shots. He can definitely win by pushing the pace in the later rounds. I think so. I think it's a very, very live possibility, Antonio. I think that is a very live possibility. Do I think that happens personally? No, I don't, but I would not at all be surprised if it did happen, and I do not blame you if you're laying money on a 3-4-5 KO or finish by Jiri, because I think I'm going to be doing that myself, playing that, because I think it's a must play. I think that Olberg is the more likely winner, just because I think there could be a finish early, and I think he could win a decision. Jiri's upside is a finish in rounds 3, 4, and 5, which I think I will be playing, but we'll see. But moving on to Curtis Blades versus Josh Hokett. Curtis Blades, 35 years old, 6'4", with an 80-inch reach. Josh Hokett, 28 years old, 6'1", with a 73.5-inch reach. Okay, so for this fight, you either believe in Josh Hokett or you don't believe in Josh Hokett. And I, my friends at Willie Picks MMA, believe in Josh Hokett. I initially, I didn't have an opinion really on him until I saw him go out there and dominate Denzel Freeman the way that he did. He was a big favorite in that fight, so he looked what he was priced. But a lot of the times it doesn't happen in MMA. Guys don't look what they're priced, and he looked a little bit more than what I'd say he priced. Given that Denzel Freeman landed 0 significant strikes, like I think he literally landed 0 significant strikes in a whole round. Like, how is that even possible, right? So I think he overpaid the price tag, and I think this step up is warranted, even though he was beating up cans. What has Curtis Blades showed us, right? The Rizvan Kuniev win, to me, not the most impressive. Not the most impressive. I don't rate Rizvan Kuniev in the highest of high. Well, all right, in the heavyweight division, I do. He's a top 7 heavyweight. He's a top 5 heavyweight, honestly. But to me, Curtis Blades is just the heavyweight that's got the wrestling that he doesn't use. You know what I'm saying? This guy's kind of fallen in love with his hands. I think he's shooting 5 takedowns in like his last, or like 2 takedowns in each of his last 5 fights, like something ridiculous. I'm pulling up the stats now that I'm saying it, but yeah, like extreme lack of takedowns for this dude. And like that's his best weapon, bro. Like 2 takedowns against Rizzy. And dude, yeah, 5 dude, yeah, no, not good, dude. 5 takedowns in his last like 6 fights, crazy work. So that's like less than a takedown a fight. And a lot of these fights he's landing 0. It's really only 2 fights where he's landed those takedowns. And he's not using his best weapon, and I think Josh Hookett could come in there and just like confuse him, just come out there like a bat out of hell. And another thing too is I think if you're behaving the way that Josh Hookett does, the way that he's been behaving, on media day, during the press conference, like the whole bit, like this guy is in character 24/7. If you're acting like that, like you got to be confident in yourself or confident that you know something that you're going to be able to beat this guy. It's one thing doing a speech after, the fights. But it's another thing that to do like the whole bit 24, like he's never not in character. You know what I'm saying? So that to me shows that he's got a certain level of confidence that maybe he like knows that he's going to beat Curtis Blades. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe and that's good. Not maybe he could lose, maybe he could get chinned, but like this is a very winnable matchup for Josh Hookett. What is Curtis Blades, how is Curtis Blades going to win by decision? Maybe he out-grapples him. Maybe he keeps it close, but the underdog price tag is on Josh Hookett here. The guy with the momentum is Josh Hookett here. I know Curtis Blades is coming off that split decision win over Kuniev that he really lost, but, it was closer after watching it. But, Hookett is a guy that could absolutely win here. For my official prediction, dude, they gave us round 1 knockout for Hookett at plus 700 against Freeman. And we bet that on the first card of the year. Phenomenal bet. Super excited about Josh Hookett. His bit's a little corny. I will say. But I appreciate the effort. And I appreciate what he's doing. And I appreciate his fight style. And I appreciate the enthusiasm. And I think he's going to be very entertaining. And I think that he could win here. Just because I don't see Curtis Blades dominating him, in every way. Like, remember how we talked about Mateus Gamrot versus Esteban Rivovics? To me, I think that's a levels difference here, right? And I think Gamrot's going to show the levels. I don't think Curtis Blades is going to show the levels here. I think these guys are evenly matched. The grappling credentials are relatively, even. Some people are even saying that Hookett's got better ones. I know, like a JUCO. I think Curtis Blades is a JUCO national champ. Hookett's I think he's a 2-time All-American. So however you want to compare those, I think these guys have similar level of wrestling, and the workouts that you're doing in football as a former football player, the workouts that you're doing are to be athletic are very good and tie in very well to wrestling. Hookett was a former NFL player. You can't be a slouch to be getting reps in an NFL game. This guy's an athlete. This guy is probably power cleaning and squatting more than Curtis Blades. I don't care about size. And that could be a problem here. Just the sheer strength. I get Hookett could be perceived as undersized, but honestly, I think he's going to win. Give me Hookett by finish. I think he finishes Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades has struggled against power punchers. Maybe Hookett just overwhelms him with his pace, and he's not a bad, he doesn't, he's not, doesn't have soft hands. He doesn't have pillow hands, so. Moving on. All right, we've got Azamat, the new co-main, because they pulled Josh Fan versus Tyra. We got Azamat versus Paulo. Okay, so Azamat Mirzakhanov, 16-0, undefeated fighter, 5'10", with a 71-inch reach in the light heavyweight division. Paulo Costa moving up. He has fought in the light heavyweight before, specifically against Marvin Vettori, but moving back up to light heavyweight, he is 185 pounds, 6'1", with a 72-inch reach. I think this fight takes place on the feet, and I think that this fight is going to be competitive, more competitive than the line entails, given Azamat Mirzakhanov doesn't knock out Paulo Costa in round one. If he doesn't knock out Paulo Costa in round one, I think this fight gets competitive. I think Paulo has the better gas tank and the more output, on the feet. I think I give the power advantage to Mirzakhanov, but I give the level of competition faced advantage to Paulo Costa. So, at the end of the day, if this fight is taking place on the feet and Mirzakhanov doesn't knock out Costa, it's going to be closer than plus 160 and whatever Mirzakhanov lines at. No, it's minus 200, plus 170 right now. I think it's going to be closer than that. So, for my official pick, give me Paulo by decision. I think this fight does take place on the feet. Mirzakhanov is a tactician. He's a very, very, very well-rounded striker. He does everything really well. He's got some sneaky power too, and he doesn't overextend. He doesn't like to get caught. He doesn't take a lot of damage. I will say that he does lose a little pace and output, like we saw in that Dustin Jacoby fight, where I think Paul is not going to lose that output and pace. For my official pick, give me Paulo by decision. I think that's where the value could be. I also like the Mirzakhanov by decision. Fight goes to split. And fight to go the distance. All those, I think, are valid plays on this fight, just because I think it could be competitive on the feet. You are a little bit concerned with Paulo, moving up to 205, maybe not taking training as seriously, so maybe his cardio falls off a little bit, but, this is a guy that consistently fights through, when he looks like he's tired, and I think he's going to be able to push a higher pace than Mirzakhanov does if this fight gets later in, rounds 2 and round 3. So, moving on to the main event, Jiri versus Carlos Ulberg. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Jiri's only 2 losses in the UFC are Alex Pereira's knocked out both times. This is a close fight, and there's a pick 'em for a reason, right? This is a similar fight. If you're throwing a dartboard on, or if you're throwing a shot on a Carlos Ulberg round 1 finish, round 2 finish, or Jiri Ulberg round 3, 4, 5 finish, or you're throwing a chart on the Carlos Ulberg decision, I think all of those plays are low-key valid, and, low-key could be, valid points. So, official pick. Give me Carlos Ulberg. How this fight plays out, couldn't tell you. Carlos is going to have the advantage early. I will say I like this play. I'm going to be playing the over significant strikes, if it's not ludicrous, in round 1 for Ulberg, paired with the over on significant strikes for Mirzakhanov. Because I like Ulberg's ability to land a lot of leg kicks early, and I think that's where he could land volume and be successful early and prevent him from being finished later in round 1. So, if Ulberg lands a bunch of those left kicks or those leg kicks that he consistently lands, against other opponents, and that Jiri consistently eats, I think that he could either, set up a finish for himself in rounds 1, 2, or he could use that to, prevent the damage that Jiri is able to put on him, and take him into the Jiri-verse. So I think that I'm going to play the over significant strikes in round 1, but as far as how this fight plays out, he could finish him, Carlos Ulberg could finish him in round 1 or round 2 or round 3, or Jiri could finish him in round 3, 4, or 5. I don't like a round 1 or 2 finish. I mean, he said he's going to be, more locked in on winning minutes in the first 2 rounds this fight, and he's got a child on the way, all these external factors, whatever. I kind of like Carlos Ulberg by decision. That's kind of my favorite play here. But for my Official, yeah. My official pick is going to be Olberg. My prediction is going to be Olberg by decision, but not too confident entirely. I know it's going to be entertaining. This fight could be entertaining unless Carlos Olberg makes it boring. But that's how I'm seeing it. Like I said, all of my bets for the winnable and for UFC 327 are going to be in the description here. So absolutely tap into those if you're interested in getting a 7-day free trial. Like I said, we are on a 2-week win streak. We're looking to make it 3. Super excited for this week's card. Like I said, it's in my backyard. May go to the fights. If I do, you guys will see me there. Hit me up if you're going. I will be posting from wherever I'm sitting, so it should be exciting. If I go, I still don't really think I'm going. I think I'm just going to be watching it from here. We may do a live stream for that card because it's super exciting. But I'm looking to start doing live streams every week. Like I said, free Telegram in the bio, winnable in the bio, free 7 days. Comment who you guys, your favorite plays, We're going to make this show a little bit more structured every single week. I'm kind of just off ripping it right now, but we are super excited to get into it. We've got some super great bets, like I said, plus 100 units in 2025, looking to add to it in 2026. As always, you guys have a wonderful night. We will see you guys on fight night, and let's cash the bets. Good luck to everybody this weekend. Let's go. Oh, wait. No. Not let's go. We're going to hit the chat first. Happy Lay says I should stream Minecraft. Dude, I used to play so much Minecraft. I actually used to be a nasty guy on the redstone. I used to be very, very filthy on the redstone. So yeah. All right, but now we're leaving. So, shout out everybody. We will